Okay. Good afternoon. Well, actually, good afternoon in some parts of the world, and good evening in some parts of the world, and good morning. We are very excited to have the next panel on sovereignty. We will have David Cam of COM26 and Live Fun, who will narrate and moderate this panel for sovereignty. We have His Excellency Jubail Mohammed. We have Mr. Leon Su. We have Hasaias Medina, Mr. Manape Lemire, and of course, David Cam, the CEO and part of the Three Peacemakers. Mr. Cam, would you please take these moderation forward, sir? Thank you.
I'd just like to state that it's an honor to be with all of you. And why we're here is that, the world has serious problems from climate change, destruction of biodiversity, the waters, the forests, and the air. And the United Nations in 2019 put out a report that says that indigenous people's sovereignty is the solution to resolving all the issues of climate change, the loss of biodiversity, and saving our planet. So since this report came out, we already knew, us indigenous people, we already knew that we were the solutions, but now we're just being aware of it. So to bring back the sovereignty to all the indigenous nations around the world so they can actually protect Mother Earth, which is our home. So this is the reason why this panel is so important about the sovereignty. There's different aspects of sovereignty, including political sovereignty, and there's economic sovereignty. Political sovereignty is that, another sovereign state or entity recognize another sovereign entity. While there is also economic sovereignty, that means that do you have enough financial resources to operate your nation or your country or whatever is necessary. So these factors are important to the equation of full sovereignty. So we are here with a distinguished panel that will talk about different aspects of sovereignty. I think the beginning, we can have each person have 2 minutes introduce themselves, each person. Then we're going to go into a discussion of sovereignty. We're going to ask, since this panel and the idea started at Standing Rock, so we have the honor of one of the headsmen of the Oceti Sakowin, Manape Lemire, who will start explain what is its view on sovereignty and how we can achieve it. Then it will move on to His Excellency, His Royal Highness King Jubail. We'll talk about it. Then it'll move on to His Excellency Leon Su, who was he was nominated for the 2017 Nobel Peace Prize. He is Hawaiian sovereignty is pretty advanced. It's just like we need, of course, they need help. And with I have a problem pronouncing his name, Isaias Medina, who is actually a lawyer and a diplomat at the United Nations level that will have his point of view on how to achieve the sovereignty that's necessary to help save our planet. So without further ado, I would like to start off with Manape Lemire, who can introduce himself a few minutes, and then afterwards, after everybody introduce themselves, then we can go into further discussion. Manape, take it away.
Oh, thank you, David. Manape na Akichita Hokshida Machapi, Sioux City, Nebraska, Sioux City, Iowa, na Winnebago, Nebraska, Matahan. Dama Kota na Hochungada. My name is Manape Lemire, and my Indian name is Soldier Boy. It translates to Soldier Boy. And I grew up around Sioux City, Iowa, and Winnebago, Nebraska. My My mother is a Yankton Sioux, and my two fathers, one is Ho-Chunk and the other is Dakota and Ho-Chunk. And I myself am a government representative of the Sioux Nation of Indians, and I'm also a headsman that represents the Madewa-Kantawa Isanti people, also known as the Dakota Sioux Nation. And I am a government representative. I sit on the ECOSOC committee with the UN. I'm registered with them. And I'm also one of the headsmen from the Standing Rock fight to stop the Dakota Access Pipeline. And I've been in this space over the last few years, navigating as truly a sovereign Indian. When we look at what does it mean to be an Indian here in the United States, we are labeled as American Indians, we're labeled as Native Americans, we're labeled as names on our reservations that we're confined to. But some of us look at these reservations more as prisoner of war camps. And we witness through the different federal institutions called penitentiaries here in the United States that our reservations are very similar to these penitentiaries and other prisoner of war camps throughout history, such as Cabanatuan in the Philippines, such as Auschwitz. So not many Indians still think of it this way. Many have assimilated. But during Standing Rock, I took the initiative to present an affidavit of defection to a state notary and to a federal notary, and I had my defection from the United States signed, and I returned to my country of origin, which was the Sioux country here in the United States. A country within a country is what some people call it. And since us Indians still have treaties with the United States, all of us Indians have become American Indians. So how do we honor the treaty if we're American? And it's a conflict of interest. It's to be an American and to be an American Indian and expect America to uphold treaty. They don't have nobody to uphold it to because there aren't no Indians left. All the Indians became Americans. So I gave up my American citizenship. We created driver's license, we created DMV, we created passports, we created offshore bank accounts associated with hopefully doing trade and some sort of economics. But over the last few years, I've been working on some of the social aspects and to see what our people are really ready for. And if they're really ready to take sovereign steps. And we wish for it, but are our people really ready for it? And so I've been learning and I've been trying to grasp how proactive can my people really be in the midst of so much going on in this world, constantly reacting to the trauma throughout history, the trauma from colonization. And so I myself have defected from the United States, and I've been listed with the UN. We are part of a federation at the UN called the Great Turtle Island Federation. And we are currently in the midst of economic, the political and the economic sovereignty aspects, the perspectives of where sovereignty comes from. We believe that sovereignty emanates from within. Others from the colonized countries believe that sovereignty emanates from God. We agree that it does, but where God is in two different locations. Our perspective is that God is within inside of us. But colonizers believe that God is up above and he sprinkles sovereignty to the king, and then the king sprinkles sovereignty to the people. our people believe that sovereignty emanates from within. And we're trying our best we can to organize under these philosophies. Of course, it translates to social, and it has to translate to economic and social growth. And so thank you for listening, and I'd love to continue that dialogue, and I really appreciate the networking, and my elders that are here, forgive me for speaking before you, but thank you also for hearing me.
Manape, I want to, Sherry here, I came in a little bit later, and I just want to say thank you, my brother, and everything that you shared was needed to be said. And so, David, I know that you wanted to introduce the rest of the panel.
Sure.
So
Yeah,
here.
Yeah, we will have a deeper discussion, of course. You know, everybody will have the time. And this panel is so important. We'll give it as the necessary time to have this realized, because this is probably the most important panel, because this the sovereignty saves the entire planet, you know. So we'll give it as much time as we need. So His Royal Highness King Gilbert, would you like to introduce yourself? Just a short introduction, maybe 5 minutes first. King Gilbert, would you like to go?
Okay, before I begin my message, I would like to greet to all Muslim brothers and Christian brothers and sisters. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Peace be upon you all here in our Zoom channel. And I want to introduce myself to you that I am Paduka Mahasari Maulana Sultan Sharif Jubair bin Sultan Sharif Muhammad Pulalun bin Sultan Sharif Al Hasim Said Abu Bakar, a founding chairman of the United Tausug National Organization, UTNO, and a sovereign sultan of the Sultanate of Sulu right now. Why I did see as a sovereign sultan of the Sultanate of Sulu? Because I was chosen by the Tausug citizens, people of the Sultanate of Sulu. And also I am the only one among the aspirants sultans here have the courage to restore the government of the Sultanate of Sulu. For now, I want to give thanks to you with me here now and give greetings, happy anniversary on your celebration of the Native American heritage. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. So His Excellency Leon Su, would you like to introduce yourself? He's the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Hawaiian Kingdom. Leon,
Hi, aloha, aloha ia mai o kou, ai maluhia ho'i ke akua, ai kou kako makua, ai ka haku Yesu, a me ka uhane hemalele. Hi, greetings from the Hawaiian Islands. I'm pleased to be here. Mahalo for including me. And I'm just honored to be part of this panel. And I hope I have something that I can share that would be of use and of benefit and value to the people of this panel, as well as those others who are listening in. As I said, I'm from the Hawaiian Islands. I have been the Minister of Foreign Affairs for the Hawaiian Kingdom for the last 20 years. And as such, I'm representing my nation, the Hawaiian Kingdom, as a sovereign independent state. So going back a bit, the Hawaiian Kingdom was actually a recognized sovereign independent state from 1843. That's when it was recognized. It was always a sovereign country. But in 1843, France and Great Britain issued a joint proclamation recognizing Hawaii's sovereignty. And this, when we talk about different kinds of sovereignty, this is political sovereignty as well as its economic sovereignty, recognized by the two great powers of the world at the time. And as a sovereign, meaning we were at the same status, at the same level, equal level as the countries of Great Britain and France. We were also recognized shortly after that by the United States and Brussels, and then we went into a period of making treaties with all of the European countries. Until the end of the 19th century, we had treaties with all of the European countries and with China and Japan, Samoa, and several others, Siam, so that the Hawaiian Kingdom was actually a very active part of the family of nations, as well as the community, international community at the time, very active and progressive in how we participated. So in 1893, there was a group of dissatisfied sugar planters who wanted to get better sugar prices for their sugar to sell to the United States. So they cooked up a scheme to annex the Hawaiian Kingdom to the United States. This, of course, was opposed by the government of the Hawaiian Kingdom as well as the people. But these sugar planters conspired with the military industrial complex of the United States and actually rigged a way in which they could take over the Hawaiian Islands. And in doing so, then they offered the Hawaiian Islands to the United States to be annexed. It's a kind of a long story and back and forth at that point, but eventually in 1898, the Hawaiian Islands were supposedly annexed by the United States, although it was never annexed technically. It was just a ploy and a way that the United States schemed to take over the Hawaiian Islands. And they did so, and somebody mentioned colonization earlier. They did so actually as an extension of the doctrine of discovery, the American version of it called manifest destiny. In other words, the United States felt it had a manifest destiny to expand itself into foreign areas, particularly at that point into the Pacific. So Hawaii was an ideal place. So the United States expanded itself and sort of subsumed Hawaii into the United States, and then sort of made it legal, or actually made it, got it legitimized, actually laundered in 1959 by saying Hawaii was, at that point, became a state of the United States. So as far as the world is concerned, the United States has been pushing this false narrative that Hawaii has been a part of the United States since 1898, and then became a state in 1959. All that is false. So back in the 1990s, starting from the 1970s, we began to realize the false narrative. And in the 1990s, many of us, actually, we did not defect. What we did was we corrected the misidentification of our people, and we started to repatriate. Yeah.
Your Excellency, let's go on to the next.
Yes. Okay. Anyway, I just wanted to say
actually, yes. Please finish what you were saying, because I get where you're going with it. We're all agreed.
Okay. Right. Yeah. So I'm just trying to lay the groundwork. So Hawaiians have repatriated themselves as sovereigns of our own sovereign state, a sovereign nation, recognized on many different levels of being sovereign. But there was one particular area of sovereignty which I think is very important, because it's not just economic and it's not just political, but it's also social sovereignty, personal and cultural. That is, who are we as people? So that's what I wanted to say. That's what I was getting around to.
Thank you for that.
That's very powerful. That's very powerful, Leon, that what you just said. And we're all collectively in the same circle that will bring about back the sovereignty to all the indigenous nations around the world. So I'd like to introduce Isaias, who is is a United Nations lawyer and diplomat at the Security Council level. So he knows a lot about at least the sovereignty of the working system that is presently the Western European working system, how it functions. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Mute. Unmute.
You're on mute.
You have to unmute.
Thank you so much. I apologize. I wanted just to say that it would be easier just to describe me as your humble servant, all of you today, Thank you so much for the opportunity. Sherry, David, it is a real honor to participate in this panel today with all these magnificent, high-level, distinguished speakers. I must say, I am a fervent admirer of all of you, and I believe in each and every one of your leadership skills that will bring great benefits for your peoples and for the planet. Your Majesty, Your Excellencies, my name is Isaías Medina. I am an international lawyer, a humanitarian, environmental activist, and a passionate, humble advocate for the indigenous sovereign rights. I was privileged enough to be a diplomat at the United Nations, participated in the adoption of the UN Agenda for Sustainable Development, banning nuclear weapons treaty, and at the first UN Oceans Conference. I was a legal delegate in the 6th Committee of International Law, a legal advisor to the Security Council, and to the UN C24 Decolonization Committee. Now, I am a founding partner of high-impact consulting firm called Tactical Governance, Tactical Partners, and the International Sustainable Development Corporation, as well as president of the We Care 2030, which is an NGO for climate action and the health of the oceans. So I am very honored to be here today with all of you, and I am looking forward to engage in a very fruitful conversation. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
And thank you for taking the time to hear these gentlemen speak and the stories behind it, because you know, knowing the history is so important on knowing the direction and dealing with the doctrine of discovery that still has precedence in our court systems today is something definitely to look at. So yes, thank you for hearing. Thank you for not just listening, but hearing as well.
So let's go a little bit deeper into, because we're creating a roadmap to full sovereignty. So I think we go back to Manape, and what is his roadmap? Because we're sharing ideas to create that blueprint for all indigenous nations to regain. They always had their sovereignty, indigenous nations. That's what I believe. They always had it. It's just that it was suppressed, but they always had the sovereignty, and their people, they're brainwashed to think that they don't have it, but they do have it. It's just that they haven't exerted it properly. So that's my point of view. So that's why we're saying.
I don't know if it's brainwashing. It's more like trauma, like Manape was describing. So I definitely want to hear him take it away on that one.
I'll give you a perfect example. I'll give you a perfect example. The 1912 Olympics, Jim Thorpe won the gold medal in the pentathlon and decathlon, and no human being on earth has been able to recreate that. And that's why Jim Thorpe is listed as the greatest athlete in recorded history. And Jim Thorpe was Sac and Fox. This was 1912. And Indians didn't receive their US citizenship until 1924. How is it that Jim Thorpe won 2 gold medals for the United States, but he wasn't even an American citizen? You know, so to me, Jim Thorpe won those gold medals for the Sac and Fox Nation. That's just a small example of how convenient it is to use people of color in entertainment. And you could get wealthy as long as you dance to the tune. Jim Thorpe was an athlete. He was just an Indian that was the way our life was. We were just naturally athletes. So he wasn't really doing anything different than just being a competitive Sac and Fox. Now, my path to sovereignty, or to have it, I try not to say that I am sovereign, I say that I have sovereignty. And this started with my biological father. He was the first Dakota to relinquish his US citizenship and rematriate back to the territory that he's from. He expatriated and rematriated back to Mother Earth. Okay. Now, the colonial system will tell you that you repatriate, but as our sovereignty evolves, we're evolving the language, that colonial language, and we're choosing to modify it a little bit and rematriate back to Unchimaka, Grandmother Earth. And what happened was he had accomplished some things with the Supreme Court, with certain paperworks that nobody has on these reservations. Not even attorney generals have some of the documents that I have. Something as simple as a certified copy from the Library of Congress, or a certified copy from the Supreme Court on specific laws. We discovered that on these reservations, the tribal councils and the attorney generals of the tribe never seen these documents before, even though they're you know, for $10 you can get a copy at the Supreme Court. And we asked questions, we read books, and we asked questions. How did Nigeria become a state or become a country? When did Azerbaijan become a country? You know, we ask these questions and you research, and you see in the UN when they let people in, the Security Council votes, right? And so how do we get to a vote? And then in order to get to a vote, what do we got to do? What do we got to have in place? So we kind of reverse engineered. We had to reverse engineer and think backwards, because there really is no blueprint where I can go to a library and just read this. At least not here in the exact middle of the US, you're not going to be able to find that. Maybe if you dabble in DC or in New York, you might be able to find this information. So eventually we discovered that 200 is a magic number. If we have economic and social development and have 200 citizens, that's the very minimum. We're definitely would want more than that. We want to bring all our people under this. But we also discovered that that magic number means that we have dual citizenship, Native Americans. I'm a Sioux. Legally, I'm called a Sioux. Our people signed many treaties with the US, and treaties are one country to another. But when American citizenship came along, the United States offered dual citizenship. So when we try to stand on treaty, the US doesn't really have to honor it, because all you Indians that signed treaty on the other side joined our team. You're all American Indians now. And my father discovered that there is a path back to sovereignty, and we would use basically their arrows against us. We would catch them. We're going to catch them, and we're going to use them for something else. And so their arrows are fueling our economic engine. We would like to see hemp development and all kinds of, bring the buffalo back. All the buffalo they slaughtered, millions and millions and millions. They slaughtered all those buffalo just to try to beat us, because they couldn't beat us. We were the best light cavalry on the planet. So, and we're the only country to ever defeat the United States in our own country. We took their flag. We own that flag. So because we took it, we should be able to declare our own sovereignty. As much as we like to talk about peace and things like that, there's some harsh realities outside that door. And so we would like to be in a place where we really truly could talk about peace. And the only way to talk about peace is to have that economic and social security. So that's what I work towards. And my father basically created this affidavit of defection. And he said, these treaties are recognized throughout the whole world, but no Indians are using the name that's actually on the treaties. So we researched it, and we discovered its name to use in their own treaties with us. and we created our own identification. We created passports. We've tested them out at different locations, the Canadian Embassy, Mexico border, places like that. But then we have some more hurdles that we need to overcome. But in order to create your own government, you can't be a dual citizen. You have to swear an oath to uphold that country's declaration or those agreements that society agrees upon. So we worked on those things. Yes.
Let's ask Isaiah to answer that question about the dual citizenship, his opinion. So it was just Isaiah's the concept of dual citizen. Can you become your own sovereign nation while having that dual citizenship, Isaiah?
It would depend on the legal norm of the country of which you are double citizen of. Like the United States, for example, they have certain limitations to have dual citizenship. You're either American and you accept that passport, or other countries around the world as well. They only, let's say, recognize one citizenship, but other countries as well, for example, my own country, where you can have a dual citizenship, dual passport, and so on. And it's just a matter of see which ones apply, which one prioritize as a law. But what I would like to take the word, if you allow me, is on the great disposition of his own nation, of Manapé, to be able to issue his own passport. Same thing did Oren Leon when they issued the Six Nation passport, and they traveled to Geneva in the I think this was in 1970s. And I believe that is a great start, the way to proclaim your own self-determination. But when it is my turn, I would very much like to take the floor and speak about.
Absolutely. The only difference I should probably clarify, Dave, is that I'm a government official. Okay. And my hope is that our elders would become government officials, because they wear the bonnets. They have the responsibility. They swear the oaths to represent the virtues of our people, the social virtues of our people. And that's what those bonnets represent. And they represent all their good deeds in life to have that position. But I don't think in order to be a government official of a nation that hasn't existed in 150 years, I don't think you could be a government official and be dual citizen at the same time.
Manapé, if you allow me, what I would suggest is actually the way of a constitution, because a constitution is the largest, the biggest manifestation to assert your self-determination and your sovereignty as a country. And within the constitution, you can set up the rules for your passport, your nationality, your flag, et cetera, and that would be the first step to accomplish your sovereignty, in my humble opinion, in American Native America. Now, it's very different in other.
We do have a declaratory statement. Yeah, we do have a declaratory statement typed up, but we would need those chiefs to relinquish their U.S. citizenship and sign that as a single citizen of the nation that they were, the Indian nation, the Sioux Nation. I don't think that they could be Americans and sign a Sioux legal declaratory statement.
I hear you. Yes, it's a very important question. I certainly would love to help in that direction, and also in the whole process of how to lead to that point of the Constitution. You need a consultation, you need a draft working team. And
this is just a draft.
To present it to the people, right? Yes, please.
Yes, also thank you so much. Hawaii already has a constitution that was a long time ago, and they're in the to be recognized as a nation state. Just to be aware, there's a Montevideo Convention. There's actually 4 conditions to become they say as a sovereign nation. Number one, you have a population. A population, that means a population of people. Second, you have to have a government. That means the operating government. Then the third, you have to have land. Then the fourth is a right to make agreements with other entities. And a lot of the times, what's really missing, it is that government that's operating, that is the traditional government that's operating. Most of them are not operating. They're operating, actually, the government, actually, they are not sovereign. They're operating under a USA charter or another country's charter. So that is the situation. Right. So when you reach all those four things, what Isaiah is saying about the Constitution is nothing more than agreement how to live with one another. How is we relate to each other? How to relate to Mother Earth? How to relate to other government officials and also international actors. So a constitution is just a simple document of a relationship. So it's pretty easy to draft up. So we're bringing the 1,000 nations together around the world to create this new federation of nations called Free Nations. And we do have our constitution. We have the constitution is around 70% completed. So we're going to complete the rest. By the end of November, we will have the Federation of Nations. It's a sovereign entity that is operating as a nation state, like any other sovereign entity. So with that, we would love to join all those other nations who want to aspire to be sovereign, to join us in this, because we will be a sovereign entity. It's a lot easier being a sovereign entity as such a structure as an intergovernmental organization structure versus a country that your nation state, but it has all the powers of a nation state. So the free nations can issue their own passports, issue their own license, and can recognize other nation states. So let's say if we decide as free nations to recognize Hawaii, we're sovereign, we recognize you. So there's at least you have one sovereign entity recognizing another. We can recognize the Great Sioux Nation. So by joining forces, we're recognizing each other. So I recognize Hawaii. Hawaii recognizes the Great Sioux Nation. Then the Great Sioux Nation then was combined 1,000 nations. It's to start to recognize each other. And Isaiah was saying also, there are a lot of island nations in the Pacific, like at least 60 of them that would come join us and say, we recognize Hawaii, we recognize the Great Sioux Nation, and other ones that will be part of this global alliance, right? Isaiah, am I correct?
In that respect, what I wanted to say very briefly is that, in my opinion, and I would go back to Manapé's point, re-engineering, we got to think outside the box, because the following up in certain of these circumstances is very slow processes. And you guys, as leaders of your own people, you have to take over within certain principles that are multiple normatives, like human rights, climate change. It is a challenge to your people. And that will bring you to enable you to respond in a different way through the international framework in order to defend your own sovereignty. What David was saying is that the challenge of small islands, developing states, and sea level rise causes such an emergency that convergence of the 6th largest mass extinction within the possibility of sea level rise that are erasing territories and even countries possibly in the future. We can act together and recognize each other in order to garner representation in front of multilateral organizations, regardless if you have filled up the credentials committee approach or so on. But as a nation representing your people's leadership, you will be recognized as sovereign within this emergency. So the declaration of a climate emergency will enable you to join many different nation states already in order to pursue the well-being and protection of your peoples. And in that case, it is a mutual recognition that will represent you in front of the international community. And that would be something that I would humbly would, not only for coastal states, if you're in the middle of America, you can support them and garner this coalition with all First Nations around the world in order to represent millions of people that are being affected and are being, in this case, not represented because of the lack of international law. I don't think that it would be fair. So we can take this opportunity together to save Mother Earth and represent the real sovereignty through leadership. That would be my.
Thank you so much for that. And I definitely, Leon Su, I'm sorry if I'm not saying your name correctly, but hearing so much talk about Hawaii, and thank you so much for sharing that. I would love to hear your perspective on everything that was just said.
Yes, well, thank you. Going back to the idea of issuing passports and things like that. Yes, David was totally correct in that it's the constitution of the country that actually forms that country, by which it's recognized in the international community. And so the Hawaiian Kingdom had a constitution issued 1840, and it was a very beautiful constitution. In fact, it was emulated by several other island countries, like Samoa, for instance, or no, excuse me, Tonga. Verbatim, they used our constitution, and they're an independent state. Now, anyway, so Hawaii functioned as an independent state under a constitution. We had passports. Of course, they're not the same as they are today. However, we did take, our constitution. We issued our own passports, and this happens to be mine. And traveled with it, and particularly around the Pacific Island states, able to get them. Excuse me, get them to stamp my passport. So this is a functioning passport, except what happened after 9/11. And that was when the security measures got so strict that countries no longer would just automatically consider another passport. They would just say, if you're not on the list of, developed by the agency that handles passports, then we can't handle it. And so one of the problems we have, of course, is not being able to support our own passports in those areas. So passports and all that were commonplace with the Hawaiian Kingdom, and we use them, and we started to reissue them about 30 years ago, and started to use them as well. However, so going on to the other discussions though, and that has to do with identity and things like that. What Isaias? Yes, that's what you said. Okay, yes, I really appreciate what you said about the dual citizenship and things like that, because that is totally up to the countries whether they recognize each other's dual citizenship. In Hawaii, we had basically, our constitution just basically says you're a single citizen. And at that time, in the 19th century, all countries basically said you could only be a citizen of one country. It was later in the 20th century when things like dual citizenship started popping up, but only under special cases. And now there's more commonplace, again, between treaty countries that basically said it's okay to have dual citizenship. The problem with dual citizenship is that if you get into a dispute, with the two countries get into a dispute, then which country are you loyal to? And that can be a real problem. So we're going to maintain single citizenship, and be able to accept people to live here, but as aliens within our own country. So we're functioning on the basis that we are a nation in continuity. We never were extinguished. We never relinquished anything. We still are here. And the only problem is that another country, the United States, has projected itself upon us and has been basically acting as a bully in the town and taking over as if they own everything. But they don't. And we're getting to the point where we're being able to working out a strategy in which the international community, which was privy to the United States taking over, but we're working with the international community now to undo the wrong that was committed and to create a peaceful roadmap on how the Hawaiian Kingdom can be reinstated as a sovereign country. We already are sovereign, but as far as recognition and interactions with other countries, we are very limited in that way. But we did fit the Montevideo four principles of a sovereign country. And with the work that I've been doing in communicating with foreign countries, we actually are in the process of negotiating, or we actually are representing ourselves to fit that fourth one, which is to conduct international relations. And so Hawaii has been very active in international relations, although not an official part of any body yet. But we get invited to many of the regional conferences with different states. So just the regional organizations. So thank you very much.
Let's ask His Excellency Gilbert. And if anybody asks questions before we jump to His Royal Highness Gilbert, because to be able to speak on his a little bit about the background about his nation and his course to sovereignty. Anybody ask questions to Leon or Manape before we jump to His Royal Highness?
I'm sorry if I may, I did have a point, and I think the passports regarding counterterrorism measures, you can add certain requirements as biometrics and so on in order to then fulfill the compliance for other nations' borders. So maybe we can work upon that as well and try to find within the cost that you can apply so that you can get the real passports.
We're looking for somebody.
Yeah, right now.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry, sir.
Oh, yeah. So we're looking for somebody to help us with exactly that. We can get the biometrics. I mean, there is the organization that actually governs it, the Civil Aeronautical Organization, International Civil Aeronautical Organization, which governs the passports. They issue the passport codes and things like that. The problem is that they only will issue it to what they consider or what they call recognized countries. So if, as Hawaii is technically on the books as a subset of the United States, they won't issue us our passport.
Right.
But we're working on reactivating our standing as a sovereign country, because we were part of the Universal Postal Union in the 1800s. In fact, one of the early members of the Universal Postal Union. And so we're looking to do that. But what we need is a couple of attorneys who can help us guide us through that. The other problem with thank you very much. Thank you very much. I will be talking with you. The other part is that being able to actually support our passports. That is, if I'm in a foreign country and I get detained, who do I call? You know, our government is not yet up to the point of being able to assert itself and to get me out of trouble if I'm in trouble, and things like that. So that is what the other part is, that our government needs to be able to get to the point where we're able to protect our citizens or our subjects who are using our passports, and be able not just to protect them, but to provide services like our consulates used to be.
Consular representation, of course.
Yes.
But you can come to agreements with countries that already have embassies and consuls.
Yes,
consuls.
right. So that's
we can
what
talk
I'm saying.
about that for sure. And also human.
That would all work out. Now, the Hawaiian Islands had consular representation in 137 cities around the world in 1893. 137 cities. So it was no problem going anywhere and getting consular support. But today we don't have that. But yes, so we need that help as well. Thank you.
Yes, David,
for us,
Gail, I had a question for Manape and Mr. Stu. Manape, I'm also at the UN and ECOSOC. Okay, I'm United Nations.
I remember meeting you.
Yes, I remember as well. Manape, I want to ask you something. I love something you said about sovereignty. How would you see, as a blueprint of what David is creating here, how would you see this playing out? Let's say you actually were given sovereignty, okay? Let's say we were living in that paradigm right now. How would you
Yeah.
see it playing out? Just as a question for you to ponder, may not even answer now, but how would you see it playing out amongst, governments, like you were literally sitting at the table at the UN as a sovereign government, okay, making their own policies and choices as an indigenous community? How would you see it playing out in terms of your economic system, your land system, your healthcare system? It's just a question of thought. If you had thought any about that, how would you see that playing out?
Oh, absolutely. We can kind of catch the pulse of the trajectory of this just a little tiny bit. Like take for instance let's take for instance the day I opened up a tax-free offshore account. I used the Sioux Nation passport, which I have right here. Okay, same color as yours, Leon. It's kind of a dark red.
Yep.
Yeah, and I chose that color because it's the same color of our pipes that we smoke our agreements on. So I chose like a maroon color with some silver on it, and I walked into a bank in Maryland and opened up a bank account using that passport. Now they couldn't put me in any state, so they put me in a maritime outlying island. So once again, Mr. Leon, we got some overlapping. So that is that we opened that account with Wells Fargo, and the reason why Wells Fargo is because they were funding pipelines to run through our traditional treaty territory, and we scored a coup that day because, for one, we just had Wells Fargo open up a bank account for the Sioux Nation, which means they recognize our treaty or recognize our passport. But that also means that they also recognize our nation. And why are they funding pipelines through our territory? So even though it was just a little banker, a banker in Maryland that maybe didn't know any better or whatever, but since Wells Fargo recognized my passport, I don't see why other banking systems wouldn't be able to recognize my passport, which makes me wonder, why are those banks funding pipelines through my territory? Now, I also can utilize that since that's my own, since that's a tax-free offshore account and I'm a government official, that technically could become the treasury of the state. It depends on my income, and then that also depends on the people's income, how we contribute, how we tax, if we do that, if we decide to do that or not. But I know that the government doesn't run itself on hugs, so I wish we did run on hugs because I like to hug, but we do have, my point is we have some things under our belt. We would love to see the FAA recognize our treaty or our passports so we could fly to other nations. So technically the Indian is confined. I've flown all over the US with my Sioux Nation IDs. I've driven all over I got my girlfriend and myself have our own license plates. I've been pulled over by police, and the police officers get it. They say, okay, sorry, be on your way. Now, if I am speeding, I will pay that fine because we have treaty agreements. But if I disagree, I can take that to court. And since I'm a government representative, we have diplomatic immunities. So that's been an interesting battle through the years, battling these little county courts here and there, but we've been winning. And it's not that we get away with stuff, it's that we assert our presence within our own territory. We shouldn't be treated like immigrants when the dust of this earth is made of my ancestors. We walk upon the dust of their bones. You know, so
Yeah.
Let's,
so for
uh,
us, we have a couple notches under our belt, and I would love to get with you, Leon, and see if any of what we've done
Yes.
could complement what you're
let,
trying to do.
Right.
let's,
And likewise. Yes, likewise.
let's hear from His Royal Highness King Gilbert, because he
Yes.
wasn't able to speak a lot, and
Yeah.
he's the elder here. You know, he's the elder here. So,
Hello.
your Royal Highness, can you talk about your path to sovereignty and what a little bit
Yes,
about your
yes.
history of your nation, because
Yes.
they are a nation that had gold reserves that were held by the banks, and they never gave it back. So you can speak a little
Okay.
bit about that also.
Okay, thank you very much. I would like to inform you, especially to our beloved international lawyer, Isaias Medina. So our tribe in the Tausug nationality or citizens is many, but many native tribes is called, but my native tribe is called Buranun. Our nationality is Tausug. People of the Sultanate of Sulu is now under the secret colonization of the Philippines. Sultanate of Sulu is illegal annex to the Philippine government. So we always uphold our rights of our former state of the Sultanate of Sulu, because we know we have a right here in our stand. Many conquerors or colonizers passed through the Sultanate of Sulu, but they failed to colonize because our ancestors fought them here and throughout the territory of our former state, Sultanate of Sulu. That is our right as a nation is still exists in the Sultanate of Sulu is the Hore state. So we hope this our boys uh, reach the United Nation C24 or Committee on Decolonization and the United Nations Security Councils. We would have been able to regain our grandeur past as we have sovereign right to do so, including our self-determination and independent state of the Sultanate of Sulu in accordance with the international laws criteria for state recognition pursuant to the United Nations General Assembly Resolution 1514, Declaration on the Granting of Independence to Colonial Countries and Peoples. When we talk about sovereignty, sovereignty is perpetual and continuous. In other words, our historical sovereignty right of the Sultanate of Sulu is perpetual and continuous. Because of this, we need the help of you brothers and sisters who are listening right now, that we could reach the United Nations to regain and declare our Sultanate of Sulu as an independent state. That's all, my brother.
Thank you so much.
Oh,
Okay, I will continue. Here in our state, there are many natural resources, such as natural gas, oil, gold, and so on. Pursuant to the United Nations General Assembly Resolution 1803, permanent sovereignty over natural resources. But we could not utilize our natural resources due to lack of ways and means. That's why until today, we go on wallowing in the quagmire of poverty and ignorance, and we should come up to our sense and start trying hard to understand our problems and how the same shall be solved for the sake of peace and development. So, furthermore, I want to introduce our representative to the United Nations C24 and to the United Nations Security Councils to fight for our right as independent states. They are His Excellency Miss Pinsaid. He is our ambassador to the United Nations, uh, and he is also our Minister of Finance here in our state, Sultanate of Sulu, and he is our ambassador to the United States of America. And His Excellency, Sir David Cam, is our Minister of Foreign Affairs here in our state, Sultanate of Sulu, including, inshallah, our brother, international lawyer Isaias Medina. I would make a position for him as senior deputy ambassador to the United Nations C24 and to the United Nations Security Council. Thank you and God bless.
Wow.
God bless you for the honor.
Inshallah. That is wonderful. If I may, David, I would also recommend, I remember clearly, and the three wonderful nations that are present here today, one of the main points to move forward is to be registered in the Universal Postal Union that was born in 1874 in Swiss. And I think that is one further step that we can achieve very easily in order to move forward sovereignty as well. I think His Excellency Leon Siu was talking about that. We can also bring it up to Manape and to His Majesty. This is something that is done at the United Nations, through the United Nations, and you can do it even before you're recognized as a sovereign nation, which you are a sovereign nation anyway.
Yes. So what we are doing is actually reactivating our membership because it was taken away by the United States. When the US took over, they just presumed that they were now the representative for the Hawaiian Kingdom. I actually have visited the office in Bern several times and had discussions with them. And really all we need, again, is for an international lawyer to assist us in actually petitioning to be reactivated on their list. And we would be. And our people here are ready to start to print up postage and whatever else we need to do. And we're really eager to do that because, like, as you mentioned, this is the key because the Universal Postal Union was an international treaty body that existed prior to the League of Nations, prior to the United Nations, and actually is the basis for the monetary system around the world today. And so we are very eager to reinstate our position in that. And it's been received with interest by the UPU officials. They basically said, well, you have to come and formally ask us, and then we'll discuss it and see where it goes.
Right. What I would suggest, David, if you allow me just to be helpful, maybe a suggestion to create a coalition, because it's easier. It's going to take the same time to do it for one than to do it for 20 or 30. But if we come in a group, we will multiply our own recognition within each other, and that will strengthen our position within all these organizations.
Yes.
So I would humbly propose that.
Yeah,
here,
except again, for us, it simply is reactivating what we already have. And that's what we're coming from, is just to basically reactivate that. And they seem to be, at least administrative people are actually interested or open to doing that, but they can't do it unilaterally, of course.
What Isaiah is saying is that we are stronger together.
Yes.
Imagine what one arrow representing one nation. It's easy to break the arrow. If you bundle 7 arrows together, like the 7 council fires come together, it's hard to break the arrows when 7 together. 1,000 nations bundled together like represent 1,000 arrows. 1,000 arrows representing 1,000 nations. It becomes unbreakable. We're recognizing each other. We're helping each other. But with that, is that we can with that we recognize each other. We have the right to print money, to create our own passports, for anything, protect our land. So we can assert it. We can, because by bringing the 1,000 nations together, like the United Nations, which we call free nations, we can have our own security council. We can have our own security forces to protect, or let's say if the Amazon is in danger, we're up against it as 1,000 nations of federation to protect the Amazon. We'll send our security council, security forces there to help them, to help each other.
Yep,
So,
that's right.
so those things, it's very, very powerful, because once all the indigenous nations come there, we represent 370 million to 600 million people worldwide. It's the same size as the United States or the European Union, but it's more like decentralized nation, because it's all over the world, right? So, so that is the vision of that, and
David,
and it's possible, you know.
To add to your bundle that you're mentioning, my father created the Great Turtle Island Federation, and that is about 15 sovereign Indian nations, and I believe Hawaii is one of them. Now, we are aware that sometimes individuals could claim something more than they really are. And my father had sat down with a leader from the Hawaiian nation that claimed some royal descendancy. But we are aware that, you know, sometimes people, like I said, sometimes people claim more than what they really are. And, but we haven't had any contact with that person for a long time. And so I would like you to know that the Great Turtle Island Federation, at least as far as the opinion of the Sioux Nation, and I'm also speaking on behalf of my father, who's crossed over to the other side several years ago. I think that it would be good if the Sioux Nation talked about that relationship with the Hawaiian people and the Great Turtle Island Federation.
Yes.
Yeah,
Love to do
another
that.
thing just another thing to add, right? Myself, I'm from the Hakka tribe. We call Hakka people. We actually established our own sovereignty in 1967. We declared independence from Malaysia on a small island, and once we declared independence, Malaysia sent their warships, because it's a rebellion when you declare independence as an island. Send their warships to attack us, to quash the rebellion, you know. But in the meantime, we made an alliance with China and Indonesia. We say our enemy's enemy is our friend. So when Malaysia came to attack the island, the China and Indonesia surrounded the island, and that's how we gained our sovereignty. And that's sovereignty. That's the country of Singapore. So I'm from that tribe. I'm one of the very few tribes that were able to reestablish their own sovereignty fully. So that's why that's why when people ask me, I do know a lot about sovereignty, because our tribe has done it. It went through the process, and it was established. You know how our country is created, anyways. It's created by the will of the people who come together, assert their will. It doesn't come by permission asking. You know, so that's it.
That's right. It doesn't come by asking. You know, because then you're asking for somebody with authority to grant you permission, and there's where the colonial mindset is that sovereignty comes from God, and we believe that too. We believe that the Creator empowers some of us to be able to rise to the occasion and lead people, but the system doesn't believe that Indians or indigenous people have the capacity to take care of their own land or govern themselves, even though there is paperwork at the Supreme Court and paperwork at the Library of Congress that says that the United States won't interfere with our ability to self-govern and self-determine our own path. So we call upon quite a few things, quite a few documents that were using their own words against them, not not to be against the United States because we've signed treaties, peace treaties, but to just to be pro-Indian, just to have some equal footing in a system that won't allow people of color to excel.
Right.
So I feel the responsibility. My family has raised me to bear the weight of that, you know, and so that's the way I'm living my life. I can't work in the United States because since I've relinquished, it's been difficult to find a job without having to use my Social Security card.
Right.
You know,
Right.
so now I literally, for the past 4.5 years, I've literally had to try to figure out, well, what does self-sustaining mean, and how do I persuade my people that this is this is a path that is beneficial to them? It's been hard to prove that, but in human history, we have a place here near St. Louis, just outside of St. Louis. It's called Cahokia Mounds. And I went there. I thought it was really ancient, and really it's only 1,000 years old. I didn't learn that until later. But they're known for building pyramids from dirt. And one of the biggest pyramids they have, Cahokia Mound, took 150 years to build. And I something dawned on me. When you listen to the state archaeologists talk about that endeavor to build this mound, the mound itself has more surface area than the Great Pyramids in Egypt. It's a massive amount. It's not very big, but the base, the footprint of this pyramid, it makes it bigger. It's not as tall, but it's bigger around. And in 150 years, so you go back 1,000 years to that river valley where the Mississippi and the Missouri come together, and put yourself back. What did that chief say? What did that leader say to convince his people to take dirt from over here and carry it a quarter mile and dump it in a pile over there? And to continue that for 150 years, people lived and died, and that's all they did was pick up dirt and dump it. And I want to know what that leader said to those people for, you know, not just that leader, but multiple leaders. For 150 years, that was a great idea. Let's do that. We're going to get up every day and we are going to build this pile of dirt.
Right.
And then here we're sitting on food sovereignty. We're sitting on economic development. We're talking about uplifting our men to become truly protectors of our people. We're talking about how do we help empower women with their food sovereignty and their aspirations for a nation. We have all these wonderful things, but somehow a leader in history said to build a big pile of dirt. I don't mean to be disrespectful to the spiritual epicenter that they created, but very fundamentally, I wish I could muster whatever that leader could muster to influence his people. I wish I could do that, because we have a lot of wonderful stuff.
Manape, I want to touch on that, what you're saying right now.
Absolutely.
Because it actually just shows the governance of and the capability in our people that was stripped because of so much of the trauma and the modern day genocide, that now we've already spoken about the true core of getting in and working on that healing, right? And circulating that healing, because the governance of our peoples and many different tribes was here way before the colonizers came. And our nations here were walking and stewarding with Mother Earth. So having over 5,000 tribes, and then 700 and something, 600 years later. So we had a very powerful governance and natural law and respect in between our communities. And so I think that's part of I can't remember, I think it was Nola, I can't remember her last name, but the term, and she, I think, used the term indigenizing. And I like that term, you know, going back to the early days and that rise with our people. So I think that this time that we're embarking on right now, and this window, this period, and everybody that's here together on this panel that's really talking about the actions towards standing in that sovereignty, coming full circle back to our governance, which is already proven that it was effective because we weren't destroying our earth. So we need to go, you know, go back to that. So
yeah, I want to add one more thing. Gail is on this panel also. Gail and I worked on creating an 18 goal, which is and she initiated the 18 goal, which we're going to talk about it on November 18. And that 18 goal, I put targets. There's one target. There's two targets that's very important. One target supports the creation of the 1,000 indigenous nations coming together to create the Federation of Nations. And the second is to support indigenous rights. It's directly built into the 18 SDG. That is, Gail, would you like to talk a little bit about that?
Thank you. I didn't, you put me on the spot. I didn't expect that one. I'm a person who likes to stay in the back end, guys, in the back, sort of in the back. So my name is Gail Davis Carter. And I was looking at the 17 goals and I said, wow, this is great. This is nice. It's, you know, all nice. I was there during the time of the negotiation of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Lots of friends who were there as well. And one of the things that hit me was, it was partnerships for the goals. That's great. We've got partnership for the goals. What does that mean? Doesn't mean much of anything. I was told that, well, it'll never happen because you should do it at a ministerial level because the US tried to renegotiate the goals down to 12 goals. And if we tried to go for the any goals past the 17 goals, the bottom line would be that all the goals would have to be renegotiated. I'm not going to go into how I've gone around it. I'm not going to bore everyone with that. But Manape, you know what goes on. I say, Isaias, you know what goes on at these levels. We don't need to bore everybody with it. But I came and the person who drew the goals, he said, you'll never get it done. And I said, okay, no problem. I believe that one person can't do anything, but I believe that a group of people who want to make a difference. And I feel when one person does something, it becomes all about that person and their ego and not about everyone working together. So I wanted to find a collaboration. And so it was important to me that the name of the 18th goal is Life Together. When I first dealt with the goal, I was met with, oh, this is great. This is a kumbaya. I said, no, have you seen the drawing of the goal? The goal is drawn exactly like the other goals. The person who drew all 17 goals told me it wouldn't get anywhere either way. Yet when he saw the goal at the World Economic Forum, he ended up holding the goal up himself. Because he was in shock that it actually did happen. He was in shock that it was announced at the World Economic Forum. He was in shock that we went according to protocol at the UN in every step. So part of that was having targets and indicators that would also represent the goal, not just a standalone goal, and that every single member state would be behind it. And so that is where it is right now. It is in process. I'll leave it at that with the member states. I went to every single member state and found out what was important to that member state. And it took a period of 2 years, not just by myself, with a group of people. But I wanted to have a select group of people that were really about moving something forward, not just talking about it, because I don't like a lot of talk. I like people who walk the walk. So I went to a select few. I went to David. I went to some people, if I named them, you would know who they are. And I asked them to give me targets that were important to them. The young lady that drew the goal is a young lady from the Dominican Republic. It's another woman from Asia, another woman, myself. So it's 3 women, 3 different ages, 3 different cultures who represented drawing this goal. Okay? If you look in the wheel on the Creators 2030, at the top is the purple color. No one ever notices it. Okay? Purple is a sign of togetherness. So after the 17th goal, we want a transformative world where the 17 goals go past 2030, where whatever is put in as a solution-based situation now has ongoing structures that continue to move past 2030. And the only way that can happen is that there's an agreement upon all of it. Now, this is not the logo for the 18th goal at all, no. But the importance of this goal is that it is everyone together. No one is separate, okay? It's not just a togetherness for kumbaya, but it's a togetherness of the representation of culture, the representation of people living their lives within their culture, the representation of people with respect, human rights, climate, all of these aspects that make up the other 17 goals. But the most important thing is the solutions. It is though the goal has already been fulfilled on from a transformative point of view. So given that David and I want to say Tina Michelle, Tina's, who is not here right now for women, and what David is doing with the indigenous area, and some other select few and other nonprofit organizations, and also other countries who have really good intentions. But the most important thing is David and I always had the indigenous community at the heart and to eradicate poverty. You cannot do that alone.
No.
And so, the bottom line I'm going to finish here is the reason why the Creators 2030 was started. It happened in 1998 when I worked with Quincy Jones, UNDP, and NetAid to end poverty. And then David came together with Live Aid. So it only made sense that David and I would come together with Mesfin and Sherry Lewis and my other partners that I have in my group, and come together because we're here to do the same thing. And I do want to say this. I normally say this in smaller venues or venues that, as we know in the United Nations. There's a lot of people that say they want to collaborate. But Manape, Mr. Sue, I wish Jubel was here, Mesfin, Sherry knows this. There's a lot of people, and Isaias knows this. There's a lot of people that say they want to collaborate. There's a lot of people that say it all the time.
Yeah.
But what happens in this space of the civil society is it is worse sometimes than private sector and actually competing against one another. Egos come in. So Manape knows as Oglala, and I recognize you as Oglala, is that we have to go through that piece, which Sherry well knows what I'm speaking of as well. We have to go through that place of relinquishing the ego. And that takes some time, some studying, and some willing to go through those practices to relinquish it. Because if you don't, whatever you're insecure about will come up through that and actually sort of contaminate the space that's being created.
Well, that's why we're just, we're protective of our space and stay in prayer. And at the same time, we have to be open and have open hearts, because this is a vision that is collective. And, so you definitely want to walk in that. But of course, we have to make sure that we all are walking in a good way and in a right way and in respect for one another. So I'm very honored and feel very blessed to have met and to be on this panel speaking with you all. So
yeah, and so I just want to close with the 18th goal, saying the reason why it is so important is not because Gail came up with it or decided to do it. No, it just, I believe that, through the grace of God, that was something that I'm humbled to have had an idea. Okay. I don't believe that it was better than anyone or anything like that. And I don't play the humble game. I really believe that that was a blessing to have come to me and to share it with others. But at the end of the day, and I have been shown to have a strong personality. It's not a strong personality. I am very committed to the work that we all do. Okay. And I don't apologize for that. And sometimes people will say this, I'm going to say it openly. Oh, she's strong willed. She's not, no. It's not that I'm strong willed. When you have come up against so much dealing at the UN and dealing in so many places and spaces and geographical places, you come to have understand that nothing is personal. We're all here to make the difference. And let's just do that. Let's just not do a lot of talking about it. Let's create together, move forward. We may all have different ways in which we do that. That doesn't say that we can't come together. But I'm a real person. So I'm going to end it there and say, David, thank you for, offering the 18th.
I think Isaiah wanted to say one more
If I
thing.
may,
as well.
thank you so much. And just to build upon your wonderful, beautiful worlds and yours, Sherry, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the Earth dollar in this wonderful conversation, because sovereignty, it's also based on economic sovereignty and social sovereignty. And the way to reach there is by, first of all, embracing natural capital assets and being able to reproduce the value without damaging the earth. So how to substitute, and you, Manape, were talking about hemp and how hemp can convert the whole motor and engine of society and economy, and how we can include the earth dollar within this economic system, a new economic system to rebuild the planet instead of damaging and eliminating fossil fuels through different conversion processes. And I just wanted to say that from all my heart, and I thank you all. Please, thank you.
Just to before we close, because there's for the 18 goals very important for Indigenous people, because there's two targets I put into the goal. Number one, the first target is to have 7 permanent seats at the United Nations for Indigenous nations. So right now they have 0 seats at the General Assembly. So we want 7 seats there at least, And the second target I put is the creation of the 1,000 indigenous nations to support a sovereign and independent federation of nations like the UN, that we're not under the UN, but at least, but we'll be working with them. So those are the two targets that I put in there that will exponentially accelerate the protection of Mother Earth and bring back full sovereignty to everyone,
Well, I think maybe we might all have to meet face to face.
That's right. And very soon I miss you. We'll have to all get together soon. And Manape, I was going to ask if you didn't mind exiting us in prayer, just on everything that we've discussed and moving it forward in a good direction. If you're open to saying a prayer for us.
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Are we wrapping up right now?
I think
Yes.
so, right, David? Gail?
Yes,
we are, Sherry. Before we go, I just want to know, before Manape closes, is there anything that Isaiah, Sherry, Mr. Sue, David, that you want to say as last words for like 30 seconds each to everyone?
Yes, I wanted to say this conversation is to create a blueprint for sovereignty for all indigenous nations. We have to continue this conversation and make it happen. It's just not a conversation. We're going to talk about it. We're going to bring more allies. We'll get it done. I'm a person of action. I don't want to just talk about it. We just get it done with, of course, everybody on here. And we have a wonderful UN diplomat and lawyer here to assist us in the process. I mean, this is not the only path to sovereignty, but it's just like one of the additions to it,
If I may, I just wanted to humbly request to open a chat or share the emails so that we can communicate and continue the progressive development of the work that needs to be done. I'm at your humble service.
Matthias, we will ensure that you get all of that, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I am so pleased to have met all of you. I am inspired by your thoughts and by your hearts. And I'm really inspired, and I think that we have the beginnings of something wonderful here. So let's continue to do this. Mahalo nui.
Oh,
Sherry, was it any last words that you had, my dear?
I'm gratitude, just so grateful, and look forward to continuing the walk that we're walking. So.
Mr. Lemire, would you take us out with a prayer? Oh, wait a minute. We have Mesfin. Mesfin, is there anything that you would like to say, sir?
Yeah, again, I'm impressed. I'm happy. And like David said, it's not just having meetings and talking, but we got to put this into action. And this is a start, and definitely will come to the end, and work hard and stick together, one in all and all in one, and we'll make it happen. And we're determined as one of the three peacemakers. That's my vision, that's my mission, and the legacy that I would like to leave behind is uniting 1,000 tribes from all over the world. And God help us in achieving our goals. Thank you.
Yes.
Mesfin, so nice to hear your voice. We were missing the third peacemaker. I was wondering where you were. So you came in just and beautiful. Thank you for your voice, and thank you for sharing, Mesfin.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
Thank
And
you.
Manape, does anyone else want to say anything before Manape leads us in prayer?
I gather not.
Right.
Manape,
right.
Mr. Lemire, would you take us out in prayer if you wouldn't mind?
Yeah, well, yes, ma'am. I would like to just say, thank you, Gail. It's good to hear your voice again. I look forward to seeing you again. David, I'm glad you're still alive and kicking and doing your thing. It's good to hear. There's a lot of craziness going on in this world. And Asias and Leon, it's good to meet you, both of you. And I look forward to something in the future with you. And the gentleman that joined us, thank you for your well wishes and your thoughts. And I look forward to continuing a dialogue with you as well. Because you asked me to do a prayer, I'm gonna just offer up a quick petition and a song. But while I do that, I am gonna turn my camera off. So. Tukashla wakantanka na tatetopa na wamakashka akichita hoshida hemie. It's me, Soldier Boy. And I come tonight full of gratitude in my heart for this beautiful day. It snowed here, Creator. And we thank you for that white blanket that you've given us, that this time of rest after so much life that came to us through the spring and the summer and the fall. And as we prepare for this this winter here, we thank you for this blanket and this time of rest. And Creator, we humbly ask that you look upon us. I'll put some tobacco out tonight, Creator. And I ask that you look upon us in favor. Our hearts and our intention is so that our people may live. And we humbly ask that you receive this thought and our words and this tobacco. And we ask that you make all those things that get in our way. We ask that you strengthen us to overcome those things in the road that may be of danger to our families in our absence. We ask that you remove those things so we can focus on our people, so we can focus on what needs to be done, this action that we're talking about. We ask that you protect our families and our children and our wakaija, the sacred ones, the little ones. We ask that you protect them as we travel, as we go on Uzuya, this path, this journey, this war path, to make things better. And we ask that you bless us when we make those connections with our relatives. We ask that we're medicine and we can complement their life and their people. And Creator, we thank you for every day that you've given us upon this earth. And we turn to the heavens. This song that I'm going to sing talks about us turning to the heavens and turning to our ancestors in the stars above and thanking them for their sacrifices, and that we may rise to the occasion. Wache kiayo, wache kiayo, hey. Wache kiayo, wache kiayo, hey. Wache kiayo, wache kiayo, hey. Machbea tiopa wichoni hemielo wakantanka ita chawa wopilayelo hey chawa kanito wa wachekeayo hey Almatakias. Amen.
Thank you so much for the blessing, Manape.
You're welcome.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Traveling grace to everybody here. You know, wherever you're at, wherever you're going, all this craziness, this political craziness, you know, don't forget to turn to your fireplaces. My elders always said, stay close to the fire, wherever that is for you. And I hope that in all this craziness and all this stuff that's going on, I hope that you can always return to that fire, whether it's on this physical plane or if we cross over into the spirit world, that you always find that fire for yourself. And that's my hope. That's not my prayer. That is my genuine hope for you. And I hope that the longer we interact around those fireplaces, the more medicine we should be able to bring when we step out into the world and try to figure these solutions out. And I can't wait to, it's been pretty quiet. I knew something was coming. And so we're ready. Nake nula wa uelo. Our people are always prepared. So thank you, each and every one of you. And thank you for sparking me up, creating this spark again. Because it's been pretty quiet with the treaty stuff lately. And thank you all for kicking me in the butt or lighting my fire again, man. It feels good. Wopira tanka chichiapalo. Oh, matakiasi.
Thank you so much, Manape, and yes, staying in prayer to keep in that walk, and that was so beautiful. And I just am so grateful for everyone who participated and is a part of this walk and a part of these actions. I just said all of that, but I was muted, so I realized that I was muted. But yes. So much love to you all, and can't wait till we can all meet by face. But thank you so much.
I just wanted to give a special thanks to Gail for working with us and putting this all together, technically working day and night, and not only Gail but her team to help us put this together. Without her, we could not have done this. Of course, I thank also Mesfin and Sherry. We are the three peacemakers. We came together to bring peace on earth and peace for Mother Earth. There's no peace on earth without peace for Mother Earth. So that's our goal as the three peacemakers for the peace on earth. Thank you.
Before Mesfin and Sherry and David leave, we have some more people that are coming on this evening. I needed to know if it would be Sherry or David or Mesfin that will be leading the next group with Luis Ramos for Sanacori.
He's a Taino from the Tainos. When Christopher Columbus first landed, the Tainos were the first that were actually exterminated. So he's coming on to talk about his culture, that Taino still exists. I hope you everybody here who's watching will continue to hear stories of our brothers, the Tainos, that we want to support also.
I'll stay on with you, David. That's great.
Okay.
I wish my phone's about it was that song. It sucked all my energy out of my phone.
Manape, we like you to come back. We have 11 days, so we welcome you back. Uh-huh.
Manape, it was good to see you again, sir.
All right, good one. I'll see you guys again soon.
Okay. I'm going to take my leave right now. Hui ho. Wonderful being here, and I'll see you again soon. Aloha.
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 Aloha. Aloha.
Aloha.
Okay.
David, is it just us now?
With Luis, Luis Ramos.
Okay, so I'm going to bring on.
Sherry, this was so beautiful, the sovereignty panel. It was meant to be, that I already felt we were there.
That was beautiful. Are we live right now still?
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mr. Ramos, how are you today?
Hi.
How are you? How you doing? How's everybody?
Okay. Well, we'd like to introduce Miss Sherry Lewis, one of the peacemakers, Mr. David Cam, one of the peacemakers, and Mr. Luis Ramos, aka Sanacori. We give it over to the floor for Miss Sherry Lewis and Mr. David K.
Hi. Nice to meet you. I'm taking it you've got to speak with David a little bit, and happy to have you here. Myself, my mom is Marianne Flores, and my father was Clarence Henry Lewis Jr. So my mom, Lipan Apache, Kolatakikan, relatives of the Dene and Lakota as well. Just have been walking on the walk in a good way towards helping revive our humanity, and heard that you're Taino, and I was very happy to meet you and wanted to hear your story. So please, the floor is yours. Please share and introduce yourself.
Wow, thank you so much. Wow. Well, my family is from a small island called Puerto Rico, what our ancestors called Borinquen. And my family's farmers, tobacco farmers for many, many generations, up until the time of before the invasion of 1492. So right now, presently, I live in New York City, and there's a group of us that we call ourselves the Arayeke tribe. We're trying to gain sovereignty.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, so we've been putting our heads together, our hearts together, and so far we got some land in New Mexico that we want to call one of our diaspora homeland. And of course, we've been talking with some tribes here in New York about collaborating, in New Jersey. But we definitely have our eyes towards the homelands, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Haiti, and hopefully one day Jamaica as well. Trying to keep, we want to build a bridge, and all of us have a common kind of spiritual lineage with our grandparents, great grandparents. So we're trying to restore, I guess, well, not really restore, but we're trying to bring to light the spirituality that survived after the invasion.
Yeah,
And
work on healing.
on the healing. So our goal is to build a bridge back to the homeland and continue our relationships here in the diaspora with the tribes and so on. Also, that intergenerational trauma, which is destroying our communities. And we share that struggle with the North.
Wow. We were just on a panel. I feel like you should have been on the panel that we just had on sovereignty.
Wow.
Would
Yes,
love
please.
yes. Were you able to hear a little bit about what we were just speaking on before you came?
Oh, yes, definitely. Yeah. One of our Guatiaos, one of our sisters on the council, tribal council, she's been helping write up this constitution. We have an agreement, we have a constitution, and we're like listening. We're like, oh my God, this is what we've been talking about.
Wow, David, I was mentioning we should introduce him to the group our group that was just on working on sovereignty. That's exactly what he's speaking on right now, And
I'm helping Louis with his constitution.
yeah, so he needs to be a part of that collaboration, with people that are coming together and walking with it in our nations. So absolutely. I'm just hearing you, and so everything that you're saying is ringing with me right now. So.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And our ancestors, our grandparents, they left us a blueprint, and because of the I guess modernism, it was always pushed down, suppressed in the Puerto Rican culture, Dominican culture. But yet, at the end of the night, I'm telling you, I found this from experience. When the drugs don't work, when the doctors can't heal, who do they call? They call the medicine person to get that tea, make that tea at night, and during COVID-19, all you heard was, oh, you got to make this tea, you got to make that tea. And people are banding together in those old ancient ways, So
that's right.
Sherry's a medicine woman herself.
I do not say it that way, but yes, I definitely work with herbs, and I am very passionate about protecting our medicines and our traditions and bringing our elders and our youth together as our Mother Earth goes through these changes. And that has been something that's very much been laid on my heart as we bring our 1,000 indigenous nations together and rise through our sovereignty, really, focusing on the healing, like you had even mentioned, the trauma, the generational trauma, and through that, and through the beauty of our people that have really so much to offer during this time, in the sense of this process, as Mother Earth goes through her changes. Those community and those relationships is what's really going to matter, and it's what really does matter in life, right? So exactly. Making a living or really living, so really focus on living and living in our existence with our environment and with our earth. So I believe so much, and when you're speaking about your elders and your medicine people, and go to when you're really sick, and how not falling so much into the path with where we've gotten away from some of those traditional medicines that have actually caused us more harm, with some of the other pharmaceutical medicines that have like a million side effects. So you're going to end up getting hurt by one of the side effects if it doesn't actually target what it's supposed to for supposedly healing you. So I do believe in protecting our medicines. Yes.
Sherry, so during the conference, we're going to invite indigenous tribe there. They're from the Amazon, and they created they have 7 herbs that they put together. It's actually 100. There's thousands of herbs, but 7 herbs have been able to eradicate completely from the body coronavirus. So the scientists have gone there to study the 7 herbs together. So that is kind of exciting also, to going back to traditional medicines to find the cure.
Yes, we all have, and each tribe has their medicines and has their natural law and has their way. And, it's understanding the areas that you're in, understanding the natural law that you're in, and being able to share things collectively when that's able. And a lot of the things that I see now with the coronavirus as it's hitting our indigenous communities here, you can look at the nation, which is the Navajo Nation, or even when I was just up in Montana with our Nakota relatives, you see the radiation that is really actually affecting our bodies. And even in areas that are low income areas where they have the transformers running through, where it's least desirable, where some people consider least desirable locations, but through Navajo Nation, we have transformers running all through the property. There's more transformers that have been going out in the Montana area and rural areas. And so you see these areas that are rural, but they're getting impacted so heavily with the coronavirus. Well, why is that really happening? So you have to see how the radiation is really you have uranium in the water. So, you need your air quality and your water quality. All of these things we have to look at collectively, because the radiation kills the white blood cells, what makes you more prone to infection. So with people that have, diabetes, it's affecting them, mainly in people of color. So there's so much more to what's happening with this virus. And it wouldn't even matter, even if it's, anything that is going to affect your immune system is going to be amplified with the level of radiation that is affecting our people. And you have to see that, there's still the militarized healthcare system. So when they're pushing certain things out, the first peoples that are affected, besides the military that are, getting injections or getting experiments or, things that are being tested on, is going to be the indigenous communities, because we're still under militarized healthcare. So basically still the guinea pigs. So, modern day genocide is still happening to our people right now. And so working on that generational trauma, this is how that's going to happen, by exposing these stories the way that we're talking right now, re-educating people, coming and standing through our sovereignty, because the truth has to be told so as our healing begins in our communities. But I believe, like I'll say this over and over, if the trauma can circulate, I believe the healing can that much stronger. And our people are strong, so basically, being grassroots in your community and being involved with your elders and your youth. And one of the things that's laid on my heart is the wellness centers, and spreading the wellness centers through our communities and our indigenous cultures, and having places where our elders and youth can come together, where we can have animal therapy as well, and really focus on food sovereignty, how Manape brought up food sovereignty. There's all of these things that we can start putting into place for the healing of our community as these truths are told. So I'm just very grateful to have you here with us. I didn't want to forget it's Louis, right?
Yeah, that's my first name, Luis.
Okay. Sorry. I was looking, but how do you prefer what do you prefer to go by?
Well, I'm my Taino name is Sanakori.
Okay. Yeah. Very good. I'm Makpia Washiwea. So
wow.
That means a good cloud woman, or cloud good woman. I get a little tongue twisted saying my name in Latino, but
the topic of this discussion is that is that a lot of people do not believe that Taino still exists. So the
Yes.
question is, if they don't exist, they don't have any rights, you know. So can you explain who the Tainos are, and do they exist? Because there's and why do people's governments say they don't exist? So we go a little bit deep into that, Sang Corey? So,
Yes. Well, you know, I had a little experience in the Puerto Rican Department of Education not too long ago, Unahuaque, and basically there's so much corruption in the sense of um, giving funding for indigenous communities in Puerto Rico and so on. And part of it is, you know, that paper genocide, we don't exist, you know, or they like to say we're mestizo, you know, we're mixed people or whatever, you know. And but you know, you look at the food, you look at the culture, you know, you often see quote unquote Hispanic Latino culture, you know, in Puerto Rico or Dominican Republic, you know. But the foods that people eat are native foods, are indigenous foods. The old recipes, the herbs, the medicines, all of that's indigenous, you know. Even many of the beats of the music. So of course the Taino exists. It's still very much alive and well. But because of colonization, the fear, you know, of being condemned or attacked, you know, the centuries, it just wasn't cool to say it's Taino or indigenous, you know, or Indio. It was a bad thing. Let's face it, 1400s, 1500s, there was mass executions. Men were pretty much thrown off the island. The women were kept as sex slaves and so on. And thanks to the women, the islands, they kept the culture alive, you know. But let's call it what it is. In the beginning, it was horrible. It's interesting because by the 1600s, once the Spaniards got an eye on Mexico and Peru, you know, they heard about these stories of gold. You know, they pretty much abandoned the islands, the Caribbean islands, and they just went exploration, you know. And what happened was, or invasion, I should say, not exploration, invasion. Who stayed behind? It was the indigenous people who stayed behind. And then when the many of that first generation African slaves remained on the island, there was an intermixing that went on. But to survive on the islands, the fishing, the growing the plants, you needed that indigenous technology. You need that indigenous knowledge. So to survive on these islands, you know, what's healthy, what's not, you know, you just don't plant the yucca fruit anytime you want. It has to be during the waning moon, you know. So all these technologies was alive and well, you know. African slaves were not allowed to go by the water, by the ocean. So how did they become expert fisher people, you know? So the Spanish, you know, they were afraid that the Africans got close to the ocean, a lot of them would drown, going back to Africa. So how did they survive, you know? The indigenous presence, you know, the indigenous. Did we call out, no, another argument, did we call ourselves Taino? Well, this is what a lot of the anthropologists use, you know? I like the word. A lot of the people in the islands, they use the term Indio, you know? In Puerto Rico, it's interesting, when I was a teenager, there was two terms. One was, oh, you're Puerto Rican, and the other one was you're a real Puerto Rican. And the real Puerto Ricans were the ones that were living in the mountains, the traditionalists. And those are the real, but they were like, you know, you gotta be careful when you go up the mountain, you know, you can disappear, you know, and you heard a lot of horror stories too, you know, like be careful because you'll be killed, you know. See, but those are your indigenous folks, you know, that kept the traditions alive, and yet there was a fear factor, you know. But eventually those people that came down the mountain, you know, they lived in the towns and the cities, they populated the cities. There was a point where Spain gave free land to white Europeans by the end of the by the 18th century, late 18th century, they were giving land for free to white Europeans because there was so many Indians around. There was so many Africans, you know. We got to stop this. So that's how that was that whole whitenize the islands and stuff. But the resistance continued. There was a lot of poetry. There was a lot of
Uh,
poetry
yeah,
written. Uh-huh.
right. I just want to ask Sherry a question.
Yeah.
Sherry, you've been to Puerto Rico when you saw the castle there. How did you feel about it? Like when you saw
Oh,
what the castle there. You know which one I'm talking about, right?
Yes, the port where a lot of the atrocities happened, where exactly what you're speaking on, basically with the doctrine of discovery. But I will touch on that. I just wanted to let him finish his thought
Right.
real quick, David, and then I definitely will touch on that. But please finish what your thought was with what you were saying.
well, no, but, so basically, this, we call it indigenous cultural continuity. It was passed down to generations. There was actually, by the 19th century, the Spaniards that came over and the Europeans will write poetry about Indian women. They're the most beautiful women. I will do, it was like this that old medieval chivalry, a lot of it was written on this time period. So there were indigenous peoples there, the men were talking about it. And then also, what was it? When Teddy Roosevelt in 1898, they invade, the American Spanish War, he thought he was on a reservation somewhere in Arizona. He's like, wait a minute, I'm on the res, He wrote that in his writing. So it's like he was seeing indigenous peoples, So now, with the mixtures and so on, a lot of the phenotype isn't as strong as it used to be. But guess what? We're not worried about phenotypes. We're worried about the culture,
That's right.
We treat one another, how do we heal? The plant medicine is still alive and well, My great grandmother is interesting. She was a midwife, but she would also perform abortions. And that's what the midwives did. If there was some unwanted pregnancy or something, or maybe it was a complication, she was doing that in an apartment in East New York, Brooklyn. She brought that tradition over. So the plant medicine, the ancestral veneration is still huge. We honor the ancestors. It's still alive and well. But for some reason, people are still scared to say, yo soy indio, I'm indigenous, There's still that fear factor, but it's coming out. The new generation is bringing it out more and more,
Right.
But
Well, even, and I'll touch on what David was asking, with my culture and my mom's people definitely my people going through the assimilation process and definitely affected by the doctrine of discovery. Apache is a Spaniard name. Politiquican is a Spaniard name. Basically the Spaniards grouped up the different clans in the band that were on the Rio Grande in Mexico, which went into now, which is considered Texas, and took all the cultures and basically bunched them together and called them Colitiquicans through that region. But 11,000 years the Colitiquicans inhabited the Rio Grande before the Lipan Apache even came. So for me, my great grandmother was probably one of the last to speak our language. We're considered the lost Indians of Texas is what they call us, or the tribe of Texas, the Lipan Apache, even though we're determined, and I have relatives, and the Dene is the mother of the Apache. And I have relatives that definitely are determined to find other relatives that speak our language. And, but at this point, still that ancestry is so strong within my family and in our bloodline, and obviously is carrying through in that way in the walk that I'm in myself now. So when you have a complete culture that's annihilated, like the Taino and the island, of course, at some point you're going to have mix, right? Mix is going to come in. You're going to, but that doesn't mean that your DNA is stripped from you, that your culture, that your ancestry needs to be stripped. So I love what you're speaking of. And yeah, for me, when I went to Puerto Rico, because that being such a base for Christopher Columbus and, such a part of the doctrine of discovery, it was like the port right there, the oldest monasteries there, the oldest church is there in the Western Hemisphere. And all of that pain has been, it was hard for me to walk up to the fort, because I could still feel the pain that was there from just the turmoil that had happened and all of the suffering, you know. So I basically was in prayer, with your ancestors, you know, in prayer with my ancestors and yours there. So I'm glad that you are walking in your culture and living your culture, even though they tried hard to annihilate it, but you know what? It didn't happen. It didn't work, you know? And so through that, I'm happy. I'm very happy to meet you and hear your story and hear your walk.
You know, and you know, I've been working a lot with past couple of years on DNA studies and stuff. I've been reading research on it. I've been helping people look at their own DNA, you know, profiles, and not that that's like the utmost importance, but one thing that I discovered that was kind of awesome, that the oldest DNA that's found in the Taino community is from North America, you know, and then you got basically these migration. You look at the migration from the north, and you got migration from the South America as well, Central America, Mexico, and in the islands, the Caribbean, is where all these tribes like met, and it created a new people, you know. And then with the invasion, a new evolution was created where you have the African indigenous folks coming in there, you know, and then and also with the European as well. But that's all right. It didn't stop that evolution that started 3,000 years ago, 4,000 years ago in the islands. It keeps evolving. But check this out, the love of the land, that's the key. The love of the land. Whenever you speak to a Boricua, you speak to a Boricua will always talk about Borinquen, Puerto Rico, you know. You hear this poetry, the songs, it's always about Puerto Rico. Dominican Republic, the thing that I love about Dominicans is that, you know, they keep their ancestral ways through family. But when they're ready to die, they can be like stage 4 cancer. They get on that plane because they want to die home. They want to die in their homelands, you know. And that's very, very powerful, you know. And you see that in the Caribbean, that whole love for land. That's indigenous love for land, you know. So I'm always listening to people when they talk about their indigeneity. I'm always looking for that, like where you're from. Oh, my mother's from Guanica, you know. My father's from Ponce. Oh man, that's cool. You know that whole sense of land, you know. And that's the key, you know. And that's the key. We have to defend our lands now more than ever. You know, the heritage. So
yeah.
Yeah.
And think about how much our land and our Mother Earth, you know, gives, and exactly right. And so, and what you were talking about is, you know, I've been saying for a long time that the scientists and environmentalists should have been listening to the indigenous for a long time, because there is a certain knowledge through the natural law, that connection with the land, like you're speaking about, and the connection with being the stewards of our environment and walking. And it is another type of knowledge, and it is another type of education. And it's one that really is truly living, because you have no life, right, if you don't have clean air, clean water, shelter, in the sense of where you're not putting concrete everywhere and destroying everything. So we really have to go back to our cultures. I believe that as well.
You know, it's interesting. I know when you went to Puerto Rico, did you notice when the plane landed, everyone was clapping? Yeah, that was me.
Oh yeah.
Right? It's the whole sense, we're back home. Thank God, we're back home. And then everyone's sad, everyone's crying when they leave. See, but that's the whole land. That's that whole love for the land, for the Mother Earth, you know. So that's it, you know. So, I do want to share something. Back in 1997, I was speaking to a Crow elder, Irving Sings Good Stewart of the Crow Nation. I explained to him about the devastation that occurred in the islands, that we lost all of our ceremonies, you know. the sacred ceremonies because of the, the invasion. And that night, Irvin taught me the sweat lodge ceremony in the Crow way. And he says, bring this to your people, bring this to your people. So I do sweat lodges in the Crow tradition for my people, We have in Sidra, Puerto Rico, So
what a great honor.
yeah, so in Arayeque, we do that. We want to create alliances with the northern tribe, the southern tribe. My own name, Nakori, came from a South American ritual, naming ceremony. So for us, since we lost so much, we need to reach out to our brothers and sisters from the north, from the south, for help.
That's right. It's about unity, and it's about us all coming together. You right now, and uniting our nations, and preserving our medicines, and the teachings, because I really truly believe that the relationships and that knowledge is what is going to be needed through the rebirth that our mother is going to go through. And I've said this before, we're not going to have to dig up the pipelines because our Mother Earth is going to be throwing them up. You can already see the eruptions that are, starting to happen pretty regularly in different ways. So I think that, coming together and being able to really have a place of healing in different areas globally with all of our different indigenous nations from around the world, because we can't fathom creator, as things are going through their changes, but we can use good wealth to overturn corrupt wealth right now, to actually put things in place and support our communities and indigenous communities and stand in sovereignty, because I don't care who's in office, who's president, it doesn't matter who's king, queen, doesn't matter. In the end, humans are humans, and we need to go back to being human beings. And as our mother goes through these changes, she doesn't care what status you're holding either. So I think that for our future generations, it's definitely important that we bring our nations together.
Oh man, that's so important. Like 3 years ago, I don't know, I mean 5 years ago, I was also honored as a fancy dancer. I was given 75 feathers to make my own fancy dance bustles. And that was like one of the greatest honors, because this is another culture, which is native, honoring me. So whenever I dance, it gives me pride that we can be unified once again, as we were before, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I believe that education that is held is the one that really needs to be put forth for our preservation at this time. And we have a small window.
Yeah. So, Louis, there's a lot of other Tainos trying to just rediscover their culture and everything. What do you suggest for them to do? Is because a lot of people, there are people who want to go back to their culture, but they don't know how, because they're living in a city or modern society. And how do you bring them back to, let's say they're not in Puerto Rico, but maybe they're Taino, so what do you suggest?
Well, in the Taino world, there's a lot of communities, which is awesome, which is, the resurgence movement here in New York, also the movement in the 70s and Borinquen, and also the true movement, cultural continuity that never stopped, in the islands, is very much alive and well. There's a lot of nonprofit organizations in the islands and also here in New York, in the diaspora, Pennsylvania, amazing groups, and they do good work. You go on Facebook, there's tons of groups that you can look. You just got to type out Taino group and you'll find them. And they all have different kind of gifts and strengths and so on. If you're a musician, if you're a traditionalist, whatever. Now, in my community, Arayeque, we're more of a traditionalist. We want to be sovereign. We want to be a nation. We don't want to be a nonprofit. We don't want to be a group. We want to be sovereign. So again, Taino Nation, there's different faces, there's different, also the spirit of our ancestors. Every village was sovereign, one to the other. So we're trying to keep that tradition alive. For Arayeke, Yukayeke, it's about sovereignty. So if people want sovereignty, this is your place. You're looking to connect with a nonprofit organization to do programs, workshops, and all that other stuff. It's it's limitless at this point. Yeah, which is awesome.
Well, that's great. We're definitely going to have to introduce you to some of the other people that we had on right before you got on. It'll be great. Some of the other nations that are in the same are in that walk with what you're speaking of sovereignty, which my heart is 100%, 150% in the walk that you're speaking on. So
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, that's it.
So among the three peacemakers, we call Sherry the mother of nations. So
David,
she's going to be the mother. She's going to be the mother of 1,000 nations, mother of nations. But I would prefer, it's more cool to be mother of dragons, but mother of nations
you are
is not
so
bad.
funny, David. That's your Asian side. So, but no, that was funny. When you said that to me, my grandmother, I said, I don't know how she says, oh no, that sounds about right. So you got my grandma's approval on that one, David. So I don't know about the one with dragons though.
Sure. So yeah, that's funny.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so, we didn't have dragons, but we had plenty of hawks and eagles and the bats. We had a lot of bats. We still do in the caves.
Oh, I think you froze for a second. I was saying thank you. I'm honored that you would call me Mother of Dragons. Thank you.
No, Mother Nations is your name. You cannot.
I got it. I'm just saying.
You could take both Mother of Nations and
your
Dragons.
Perspective. So that's pretty funny. That's great. But thank you. So
yeah, dragons are cool. Dragons.
So do you think is Susie coming on, or are you aware of that, Sherry?
I don't think so, because I wasn't able to confirm that in the reception and everything that's going on. You really, let me tell you, it's we have relatives that are at funerals weekly right now. There's been a big impact in our community and in our communities, and even certain tribal governments are closed because of what's happening with COVID right now. So it's basically, you're right in the middle of it. So even things that are planned change because of what's happening in life right now. It's just so surreal with the pandemic and the effect that it's taking on people's lives. However, I also I started a petition on the radiation. It's called Friendly for Humanity Technology that benefits our health. Friendly for Humanity Technology that benefits our health. Because I personally was impacted by radiation poisoning, saw some of my relatives, and are literally almost lose their lives. And it really, it came back down to, yes, getting sick, going to the hospital, exasperating COVID by 10, 100, whatever, just totally blowing it out of the park. And then really going in and measuring the radiation levels and having people with technology that can measure the radiation in the home, and knowing for a fact that the radiation levels are off the charts and that people are being affected by it. So I think that that's something, like I said, that we really need to start addressing, is focusing on our water and our radiation levels, because really our water is killing more people than guns. And that's because of all the toxins that are being put into our water supply, including oil leaks that are covered up, you know? So there's so many things. Yes. So to your answer that question, David, Susie will not be on with us this evening, but just
So
got
I
me
guess
thinking about,
this is what we can wrap up then. This would be the
yes.
last broadcast. Also, just want to make you aware, we were supposed to have other broadcasts, but you know, as due to coronavirus and strange things happen. So the great law of peace, the story of the great law of peace, was supposed to be broadcast today by Lorraine Thompson, Francis Boots, and Paul de Larone. But when he was going across the border, because for the Mohawk or the Haudenosaunee, going across the border is a regular occurrence because their community crosses the both borders. So he was stopped by the custom, and his phone was taken away, and he was held there, and he was just released. And he's saying so he missed our broadcast completely because he was held at custom. With no phone. They took away his phone, and they just released him. So this is the things that we're facing, and one of the reasons the crossing the border is more severe because coronavirus. They don't want people crossing the borders between Canada and the U.S. and there is an issue of crossing the borders now due to the coronavirus, and they're more strict. They don't actually let people cross the borders anymore. So that caused them issues. So we're facing real issues on the ground.
Right.
Sometimes why speakers don't show up late or are not on time because they're living in extraordinary circumstances of the coronavirus, also extreme poverty. They might not have the cell phone reception or Wi-Fi. Or you know, the general, maybe they don't have the gas money to go to a location that has a Wi-Fi to come to this broadcast. So when people ask me how come we're late or not on time, is because we're dealing with people that have been oppressed and don't have the means to sometimes to deal with these circumstances. Like example, if their uncle or mother is ill, who's going to take care of them? They're the main caretakers. And how many indigenous people have come down with coronavirus? Sherry, since how many of our friends, right, have come down with coronavirus?
I just want to touch on something because I don't like using that word. You're exactly right. And I know exactly what you're referring to, David, but our people, you know, they aren't poor people. It's the sense that the poverty that's been put around our people has been purposely done. Okay. And even so that has, and for generations, as like I said, you know, even when the reservations were started, it was a way of it was like a prisoner number, you know, having your number was like a prisoner number, a way of keeping the oppression that's there. So yes, there are those things that are affecting our community, but the strength of our people and the heart of our people and the DNA and, you know, that indigenous knowledge, that's what we are trying to thrive and bring out. But when you have things that are going on in the community where you're getting poisoned by radiation, right, and you are staying there's this oppression, like you were saying, that is trying to keep the people down and impoverished. Yeah, you definitely have another extra stack of circumstance to go through, and even people that don't have those extra stacks of circumstances necessarily to deal with because there's an old saying that if you don't make a decision, it's like making a decision, because the decision will be made for you. But imagine if you have no choice in that decision making process. So there's other people that are still going through the pandemic, but other people are hit extra hard in this pandemic. However, for anyone right now, these times are very trying, whether you're on the reservation or not. I mean, you know, people that are just not even experiencing the same levels of oppression are not able to make meetings and are not able to go to certain places because their parents are dying in nursing homes, are they're dealing with not being able to be with loved ones who are passing away. So I just want to say that this is a pandemic that is really affecting us all on such a global level, no matter where you are on the map. It's taking a toll on everybody. But yes, even more so of people that have already and some of our peoples that have already been had a certain trauma over them. Yes, you're absolutely right with that, David.
Louis, would you like to close this off with a prayer?
Oh man,
or
yeah,
or
sure.
song? That
Yeah, how about I have a song that I sing that is pretty it was taught to me by Edward Cedeno. He died a couple of years ago of diabetes. You know, he fought very hard, and he taught me this. It's in Taino words actually. It's connected to the. It says that the earth is our mother. Atave, she's our mother. We are her children. We will care for her. We will love her, and she is our mother. So.
yeah, that would be one of the rare occasions. I think this is the first. Very few people heard Taino songs, so
Yeah.
we would be pleased if you sing one to us. You know, that would be really great.
Sure, I don't have my rattle with me, but I'll definitely sing it then. Actually, yeah, I'll just do it a cappella then.
Okay.
Atabe gua gua bibi gua wara bibi. Atabe gua bibi gua wara baba. Atabe gua gua bibi gua wara bibi. Atabe gua supaku. Atabe gua supaku. Atavera gua gua bibi gua baba. Atavera gua gua bibi gua Atavera gua subimaku. Atavera gua subimaku. Subimaku.
Wow, that was beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it for allowing me to sing that song. And yeah, it's all about Mother Earth, right? For in Taino is Atave.
Right.
You know? Sure.
That's what we're here for. We're here to. That's why we bring all the unifying all the 1,000 indigenous nations together to protect Mother Earth. You know, we have set aside our differences, come together for Mother Earth. You know,
that's true. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
We're all in it, man. We're in it, right? Arayeke, 1,000 tribes, 1,000 nations.
Oh, I love it.
We're here.
So, such a blessing to meet you. Look forward to many more conversations in the future, and you know, getting things moving in the right way. So thank you for everything that you've been doing, everything that you're still doing and walking in. Thank you so much.
Thank you. No, man, Boma, thank you so much. Thank you. We're here for the long.
Let's bring in Gail. Gail, are you still there listening?
We put her to sleep, David. It's been so. I don't know if she.
Actually, no, no, not at all. No, not at all. No, you're gonna all laugh, and Sherry's really gonna laugh. My button got stuck on the mute.
You're right. You did get me to laugh on that one.
Yeah,
That's great.
So, and it was great because it was really, it's, I want to thank you and Sherry, I want to thank you and David because, and, and also Luis, because, sometimes when I'm usually the one in the meetings, as you guys know, and it's really nice sometimes to sit back and learn rather than always be the one that is always talking or interviewing. It's really nice to sit back and learn and gain a better understanding of things from different perspectives. And so for me tonight, I'm actually grateful. Someone said to me, "Don't you feel funny, Gail? You're usually in the front." I said, "No, I actually feel humbled because I'm on the other side. I get to do it from a different aspect where I get to listen. When you're in something, you can't always hear it the way you'd like to or listen to it the way you'd like to. And this time I had an opportunity to really listen in, and I was grateful for that."
Oh, Gil, that says so much about the person you are and your spirit. So you're just a beautiful soul, and thank you for being you. And thank you so much for all of your work that you do and just, and everything that you're doing now. So thank you, Gail.
Yeah, it was nice. I really have to say it was nice. It was nice, because Sherry, we talk sometimes, but I don't have an opportunity to get to know some of the things that you do and share. And then, getting to listen to David and getting to listen to Luis and hearing people's perspectives. I think it's very important to listen to others' perspectives rather than always focusing on, like what's ours, what are we doing and all of that. So it was pretty cool.
Oh. Well, so nice.
Thank you so much. Tomorrow we have the climate change conference.
Yeah. So Sherry, we start all over again.
Oh my goodness. I might have David leading part of that one up, Gail.
Well, actually, that's the one that I start out leading for probably half.
Oh, okay. All right, sister.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah, Sherry, you got your fun today. You get to rest tomorrow.
You got it, sister. I'm going to be listening and taking you in tomorrow.
Yeah, but you get to rest.
That was great. Oh, so well,
Sherry, I'm going to actually put you on the spot. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Are we going to hear your song?
Oh, you mean yes, we're going to have. We actually, from the band, right? The Live Hope Festival group.
Yeah, no, your daughter who sung that song.
Yeah. She's, we're definitely are. Actually, David and I were talking about that we're giving them a call. So we're going to get them.
You promise.
Yes. We're going to get them on before our 11 days is up. That is our goal.
I'm going to hold you to that.
Yes. We're going to do that.
I'm going to hold you to that. Definitely.
Okay.
So thank you all. And for me, this was, it was a pleasure to serve. As I said before, a lot of people say that, but for me, it was really a pleasure to serve and listen and learn.
No. Well, very, very grateful. So much love to you all. Anything else anyone wants to say before we exit? Yes.
No, I said likewise. Thank you.
Oh, yes. Yay. Thank you.
I do want to say to everyone, we will probably have a different platform tomorrow. Zoom folks, I like you, but yeah, we will definitely probably use a different platform tomorrow to make it easier for everyone.
Well, that is in your hands, and thank you for all that you all do. So much love, many blessings. Anything, David?
No, just like going back to work after. Easter.
Yeah, David, we can't wait, right? We're so excited about it.
Oh, well, thank you all again and have a blessed evening.
Oh, wait a minute though, Sherry.
Oh,
Can we
yes.
switch? You stay here in urban New York and I go up in the mountains where you are. I'd love to trade.
Oh my goodness. Oh, Gail, you can come as my guest. You can come as my guest. I have a guest bedroom. So you and I both.
Don't invite me because I might not leave. I'm telling you, I'm sick of the urban environment. The urban environment here is, you know, it's great, but and I love where I live, but it's, you know, one of David's friends said the other day, it's too much sidewalk for me now. I need to see some trees and things.
Well, you are welcome. I can't wait until you can come visit. So, yep, I'm in the woods.
Yes. Just ask the bugs not to come by because I will be jumping all over the place.
We don't have many issues with the bugs, but definitely have my bears. Have bears, you know. So,
and Sherry, I will give them the whole forest. They can have the whole.
That's great.
Well, thank you, everyone. And is there any, you know, before we sign off, Mr. Ramos or David or Sherry, is there any last words you, either the three of you would like to share?
Well, you know, in the tribal name that we have for our community, Arayeke, it means the people rise. So we're all rising at the same time, which is awesome.
Yes.
That's it.
Mr. David, anything you'd like to say before you go?
Please join us for tomorrow and the rest of the 11 days. We'll have different themes from climate to new economic system for women's conference and so on. Join us to create this new blueprint for this new world we want to see. Thank you.
Miss Sherry, why don't you lead us on out?
Oh, were you speaking with me, Gail?
Yes, would you lead us on out in a prayer?
Oh, sure. Creator, just so humbled at this time and filled with so much gratitude. Wow. So the individuals that came here today through this meetings and speaking and collaboration of vision, please, Creator, just continue to embrace us and hold our hearts and our minds and keep guiding us on the walk that only is in a way of the light, and keeping that protection as we continue to walk in a good way, and keeping our endurance and our strengthening of our hearts and our minds to stay in alignment, and protection over our humanity and our humanity as a whole, and coming together as a whole during this rise. So, Creator, please continue to use those that you've called for this walk, to use us in a way that only reflects the goodness that is in us, and through that goodness, touching others to join in a way that is a reflection of care and love. And let us continue to embrace that love in your name. Thank you, Creator.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Sherry. Well, everyone, we will see you tomorrow. It is Live Hope out for the night.
Yes, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
And bye, Com26V. See you later.